The rain fell that evening like heaven itself was weeping. Naomi walked through the gates of her father's mansion, her steps heavy, her heart trembling. It had been years since she last set foot there. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights at the hospital. Her mother, the only person who had never abandoned her, was dying, and Naomi had nothing left. She had sold every possession, borrowed until no one would lend her a coin. She stepped into the grand mansion's sitting room, her knees nearly buckling beneath her. "Papa," her voice cracked, soft and broken. "Please, I beg you. Mama is dying. I've spent everything. The doctor said that without money for her medication, she will not survive. Papa, please, help me." Laughter cut through her words like a blade. Clara, her half-sister, leaned against the staircase rail with a mocking smile that carried both venom and delight. "So you remembered you have a father, eh?" Clara's voice dripped with scorn. "After all these years? Look at you, thin, desperate, pitiful. Do you think this is a charity home?" Naomi dropped to her knees, her tears wetting the marble floor. Her hands trembled as she clasped them tightly. "Clara, please, this isn't about me. It's about Mama. She hasn't wronged you. Please, help us." For a moment, the room fell silent. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his proud frame shrinking just a little. His eyes softened as he watched his daughter's tears. He opened his mouth, his voice low, almost guilty. "Naomi, stand up. Maybe I can." But before he could finish, a voice sharper than a whip cut across the room. "Enough," her stepmother barked, storming in like a queen guarding her throne. "Don't be fooled by her crocodile tears. If she wants money, then she must earn it." Naomi lifted her face, her body trembling. "Earn it? How?" she whispered. A slow, wicked smile stretched across the woman's lips. "Marry the bastard son of our business partner. A hooligan. An outcast. Everyone knows he is irresponsible, worthless, and shameful. If you say yes, then, and only then, you will get the money." Naomi froze. Her heart thudded painfully against her chest. Clara burst into uncontrollable laughter, clapping her hands like a delighted child. "Oh, what a perfect match. The beggar girl will marry the bastard boy. God must have a sense of humor." Naomi's body shook as tears streamed down her cheeks. The weight of her mother's life pressed down on her shoulders. She clenched her fists against her chest and let out a broken cry. "Fine," she shouted, her voice echoing through the cold walls. "I'll do it. If this is what it takes to save Mama. I'll marry him." The room fell into heavy silence. Her father lowered his eyes, unable to meet her gaze. The stepmother smirked in triumph, her plan complete. Clara's laughter filled the mansion again, cruel and heartless. That night, Naomi's destiny was sealed. She had agreed to a marriage of mockery and shame, her life traded for her mother's fragile breath. What she did not know, what no one could have guessed, was that the man they mocked as worthless carried a secret so powerful it would shake the very ground they stood on. For in this life, the rejected stone often becomes the cornerstone. The wedding day came faster than Naomi could breathe. There was no joy in her steps, no music in her soul. She wore the gown of a bride, but her heart was heavy with chains. Every vow felt like a prison sentence, every smile from the guests like a blade in her chest. Clara and her mother sat proudly in the front row, their faces twisted with satisfaction. They whispered to each other, mocking Naomi with every glance. "Look at her," Clara giggled, covering her mouth. "Marrying a bastard. Beauty wasted on nothing." When Naomi's eyes finally fell on her groom, her breath caught. She had expected a brute, a savage, perhaps a drunkard with wild eyes and foul breath. But before her stood a young man with striking features, tall, well-built, and quietly dignified. His suit clung to him like it was made for royalty. His eyes, though gentle, carried a depth she couldn't read. He bowed slightly as tradition demanded, and in a low, calm voice, he said, "My name is Adrian." Naomi swallowed hard, confused by his composure. Handsome, yes. But what did that matter? Handsomeness would not heal her mother. She had agreed to marry shame itself, and shame was standing before her in human form. The vows were said. The rings exchanged. The guests clapped. Clara's laughter echoed again. Let her enjoy now, soon she will taste suffering. That night, Adrian took Naomi not to a mansion, not to a palace, but to a modest mini-flat at the corner of town. The walls were plain, the furniture simple. Naomi looked around and sighed. At least he was not cruel. At least he had given her a roof. As the evening darkened, Adrian noticed her silence. He turned to her, his voice calm and steady. "Naomi. I know this was not the marriage you dreamed of. I will not rush you. I only ask that we start as friends. Time will tell the rest." She looked at him, surprised. Most men would demand a wife's body, her submission, her everything. But Adrian, he only asked for friendship. She nodded weakly. "We don't know each other. Let's take it slow." Days passed. Naomi, believing her husband to be a poor man, woke early, cooked, cleaned, and did all she could to make their tiny home a sanctuary. In the evenings, she prayed silently, her whispered words carrying one plea, "Lord, keep Mama alive." But life outside the flat was cruel. Naomi searched for jobs, carrying her files from office to office. At one interview, her heart broke. Her former classmate, a man who had once admired her beauty, now looked at her with disdain. He sneered, "So, this is where life brought you? A beggar's wife seeking work?" He rejected her before she could finish her application. She walked home that night, tears streaming down her cheeks, her laughter of old long buried under pain. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of crickets outside. Naomi sat on the edge of the narrow bed, her shoulders trembling as she buried her face in her slender hands. Her cream blouse and navy skirt were wrinkled from the long day, her curly hair falling messily around her pale, tear-streaked face. The kerosene lamp on the small wooden table cast a soft glow, painting the plain cream walls in shadows. From the doorway, Adrian stood silently, his tall frame leaning against the wooden doorpost. His warm brown skin caught the flicker of the lamp, his neat short hair shadowing his forehead. His eyes brimmed with worry, his broad shoulders rising and falling slowly as he struggled with whether to approach her. He watched her cry, helpless but patient. She had carried so much pain on her slender shoulders, more than any heart should bear. He wanted to reach out, to pull her into his arms, but he knew she wasn't ready. So, he stayed in the doorway, quietly guarding her with his presence. Later, Naomi finally lay down, curling up on the bed. She wore a plain white nightgown now, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if holding together the pieces of her breaking heart. Her curly hair spread across the pillow like a dark crown, her breathing shaky in the stillness. Adrian moved then. He crossed the room, his gray shirt sleeves rolled up, and sat gently on the edge of the bed, close but not imposing. His strong hand rested on the blanket near hers, near enough to reassure, but respectful enough not to cross a boundary she hadn't allowed. "Naomi," he said quietly, his voice steady yet tender. "Don't let their cruelty define you. You are not weak. You are not forgotten. One day, the same people who laugh at you will bow in shame. You will rise higher than all of this." Naomi blinked, startled by the firmness of his tone. Then, despite her exhaustion, a faint, silent laugh slipped past her lips. She turned her face slightly into the pillow, shaking her head at the irony. "Adrian, the thug, giving motivational speeches? Isn't that the height of today? But as her chest rose and fell, she felt the truth. Oh, how soothing those words were. For the first time in so long, she suddenly felt like she wasn't alone in this battle anymore. Her voice trembled, soft but clear. You sound so sure, Adrian, like you see something in me that I can't. He leaned slightly closer, his deep eyes never leaving hers. I don't just see it, Naomi. I believe it. And until you believe it too, I'll carry that hope for both of us. Naomi closed her eyes, a single tear escaping down her warm brown cheek. This marriage might have begun in shame, but in that fragile moment, she felt a peace she had never expected. The next morning, Naomi dragged herself out of bed, her body heavy with yesterday's worries. She shuffled into the living room, her hair tousled, eyes half closed. But then, she froze. There was Adrian. Her Adrian. Standing by the stove in a plain t-shirt, cooking breakfast with the calmness of a man who carried no weight in this world. The sizzling aroma of fried eggs and warm yam filled the air. She leaned on the wall, watching him silently. A smile tugged at her lips. This man, this quiet man who was mocked as a bastard, here he was, making her morning brighter without a single word. She moved to the couch and slumped into it, lost in thought, when suddenly her phone buzzed. A message. Her heart skipped. She snatched it up, then gasped. It was an email from the company. Congratulations, Naomi. Your application has been successful. Report to the HR desk tomorrow morning. Joy exploded in her chest. She leapt to her feet, screaming, then rushed to Adrian, wrapping her arms around him from behind. I got it. Adrian, I got the job, she squealed. Adrian chuckled softly, tilting his head toward her. I told you, you're stronger than you think. She pulled back to stare at his face, grinning so hard it almost hurt. For a moment, she forgot every insult, every worry. She sat with him at the table, admiring the plate he placed before her. The meal was perfect. The morning, perfect. The man before her, handsome and gentle, felt like a dream she never wanted to wake from. Life couldn't get any better. But fate was weaving a different thread. As she and Adrian laughed over bites of the delicious food, her phone buzzed again. Another message. She opened it. Her smile vanished. Hi, Miss Naomi, this is to inform you of your mother's huge hospital bill. We advise you to pay up this week or kindly withdraw her from the hospital as her treatment would be stopped with immediate effect if debt doesn't get paid up this week. Her hands trembled. The fork slipped from her fingers. And in that instant, the sweet taste of victory turned bitter. Naomi's heels echoed against the polished marble of Chief Okoro's mansion, her chest heaving with suppressed rage. The hospital letters burned in her handbag, cold reminders that her mother's life hung by a thread. Bills unpaid, treatments threatened to be cut off. She had trusted her stepmother to handle it as promised, to finally show an ounce of decency. But all she had shown was deception. As Naomi entered the living room, the sight before her made her stop dead in her tracks. Clara, her stepsister, sat sprawled on the couch, twirling a brand-new Gucci bag in her manicured hands. Her laughter filled the room as she posed before the mirror, admiring her own reflection. Naomi's blood boiled. Her mother lay dying in a hospital bed, and here was Clara, dripping in luxury. Where is your mother? Naomi demanded, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. Clara looked up, feigning surprise, then smirked. Well, look who crawled out of her misery. Naomi, you should try smiling more. Life is too short to be so bitter. Or is it the hospital finally threw your poor mother out? She clutched the Gucci bag to her chest, giggling. Naomi stormed forward, her fists trembling. I will not play your games, Clara. Call your mother. Now. Before Clara could respond, a sharp slap split the air. Naomi staggered back, her cheek stinging with fire. It was Clara's mother. She stood tall in her flowing wrapper, eyes blazing with contempt. "How dare you storm into my house like this? Do you think you can embarrass me in front of my own daughter?" Naomi's chest rose and fell, her throat tightening with fury. "My mother is dying. You promised to handle the bills, yet you waste money on handbags and gold. How do you sleep at night knowing what you're doing?" Igioma's lips curved into a cold smile. "That is not my concern. You and your wretched mother are nothing but beggars in this house." Naomi's breath hitched. She turned, her last hope resting on the figure standing by the doorway. Chief Okoro. Her father. "Papa," Naomi's voice cracked, eyes brimming with tears. "Please, say something. You know Mama does not deserve this." But Chief Okoro looked down at the floor, his silence heavier than 1,000 words. He shifted uncomfortably but made no move to defend her. Behind her, Clara burst into laughter, clapping her hands in delight. "See, Naomi? Even Papa is tired of you. Always whining, always begging. Pathetic." Naomi's world spun. The slap hurt, but not as much as her father's silence. It was then she realized she hadn't just been betrayed by her stepmother and Clara, her own father had abandoned her too. For a moment, the grand mansion felt like a prison, its glittering walls closing in on her. Naomi swallowed the lump in her throat, her tears burning hot, and whispered to herself, "I am truly alone in this fight." The next morning, Naomi dragged herself back to the hospital, only to meet another blow. The nurse shook her head, her expression grave. "Miss Naomi, we can only keep your mother until tomorrow. If the bills are not cleared, we will have no choice but to release her." Naomi's breath hitched. She grabbed the nurse's arm desperately. "Please, don't do this. She'll die if you send her away." But the nurse's eyes softened with pity. "I'm sorry, Naomi. There is nothing more we can do." Naomi stumbled out of the hospital doors, her heart pounding, her mind spinning. Everywhere she turned, walls were closing in on her. Naomi walked the streets aimlessly, her mind heavy with despair. Her mother's health was deteriorating, and the hospital had grown impatient. They sent message after message, threatening to withdraw treatment unless payment was made. She was desperate. Too desperate. At home, she pulled open her drawer and stared at a velvet box. Inside lay a delicate necklace, a gift from her husband Adrian. She held it in her palm, her fingers trembling. Selling it could buy her time, pay her mother's bills, keep hope alive. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Forgive me, Adrian, but I have no choice." Clutching the necklace, she left the house and headed for the market district, where pawnbrokers and gold traders lined the streets. Every step felt like a betrayal, but she pressed on. Yet on her way back, with the necklace still in her hand, she paused. Her chest tightened. The memories of Adrian's smile, the love in his eyes when he had given it to her, she couldn't do it. She couldn't sell it. "Mother deserves better, and Adrian trusted me with this," she muttered, turning back with a heavy heart. But fate had other plans. Halfway down a deserted street, shadows emerged from alleys. A mob of rough-looking men circled her, their eyes filled with hunger and malice. "Fine girl like you, walking alone," one sneered. Another reached for her arm. She screamed, struggling as their laughter echoed in the night. "Let me go," she shouted, her voice breaking in fear. They closed in, their intentions dark and unmistakable. Naomi's heart pounded, she thought it was the end. But then, like a storm breaking, Adrian appeared. Out of nowhere, he charged into the fray, fists flying with precision. The men scattered under his fury, groaning and cursing as they fled into the night. Naomi fell into his arms, trembling. She looked up at him, stunned. "Adrian, what are you doing here?" His jaw tightened, his eyes unreadable. "The real question, Naomi, what were you doing here?" "Back home," he confronted her. His tone was gentle but firm. "Why would you risk yourself like that? Why would you even think of selling something I gave you?" Tears streamed down her face as she broke. "I didn't want to, but I needed money. Mother's bills keep piling up, and I didn't know what else to do." Adrian's face softened with pain, but then his eyes fell on the red mark across her cheek, the one left from Clara's mother's slap. His fingers brushed it lightly. "And this, who did this to you?" Naomi turned away, refusing to answer. "It's nothing." But Adrian wasn't a fool. He gave a quick call to his personal assistant, Daniel. "Find out everything," Adrian ordered. Daniel returned hours later with the truth. How Naomi had been insulted. How she was spoken to like dirt. How Clara's mother had slapped her inside Chief Okoro's mansion, her own father's house. Adrian's fists clenched, rage burning in his chest. His voice was low but deadly. "So they dare humiliate my wife, in her father's house." He stood, his face cold as steel. "If they want war, they'll have it." The atmosphere in Chief Okoro's mansion was thick with tension. The luxurious sitting room, with its velvet couches and golden chandeliers, felt like a prison instead of a palace. Chief Okoro sat at the center, his brow heavy with worry. Clara lounged lazily with her Gucci bag beside her, while her mother tapped her fingers impatiently on the armrest. "Do you people understand what this means?" Chief Okoro barked, slamming the table with his palm. "Our biggest business partner has pulled out. The very deal that was supposed to secure our offshore loan is gone." Just like that. His voice echoed through the mansion. Sweat trickled down his forehead as the weight of impending bankruptcy pressed on his shoulders. Clara rolled her eyes. "But Daddy, can't you just find another investor? You're Chief Okoro." "Don't talk like a fool," he snapped. "That deal was the backbone of everything. Without it, we are finished." The room went silent, the air charged with fear. Suddenly, Chief Okoro's phone rang. He grabbed it, irritation still in his tone. "Yes? Who is this?" "Daddy," Naomi's soft voice came through. His eyes widened. "Naomi?" On the other end, Naomi was almost in tears, her tone trembling with gratitude. "I just saw it. The hospital bill, it's been paid in full. Daddy, thank you. You don't know what this means to me, to Mother. May God bless you." Chief Okoro's lips parted in shock. "What?" I didn't," but Naomi had already hung up, leaving him frozen in disbelief. The sitting room went dead silent. Clara and her mother stared at him, suspicion dancing in their eyes. Her mother was the first to break the silence. "So, you're hiding money somewhere, eh? Pretending like you don't have anything? You secretly paid Naomi's bills while your own family suffers?" Chief Okoro shot up from his chair, furious. "Woman! I swear on my life, I didn't pay anything. Why would I lie to you about this?" But Clara sneered, her voice sharp. "Then how does Naomi have a receipt with your name on it?" "Daddy, stop playing games." Chief Okoro's face paled. He grabbed his phone again and dialed Naomi. "Naomi, send me the receipt. Now." Minutes later, Naomi forwarded the document without hesitation, smiling to herself, believing her father had finally shown compassion. But in the grand sitting room, when the receipt flashed on Chief Okoro's phone screen, the tension exploded. His name was printed clearly at the bottom, "Paid in full, Chief Okoro." The three of them stared at it, stunned. Clara's mother's voice trembled with confusion. "But, if you didn't pay, and we didn't, then who did this?" The question hung heavy in the air like a curse. For Naomi, the matter was settled. She believed her father had stepped up at last. But inside the mansion, Clara and her mother knew the truth: Chief Okoro had not paid a dime. Clara's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Someone is playing games with us. Someone powerful enough to manipulate accounts, to use Daddy's name without him knowing. Her mother leaned forward, her tone laced with venom. Then we find out who. Who does that filthy girl know that could probably offset the hospital bill? Who dares to ruin her plan to have Naomi's mother die on her sick bed? They will regret it. Chief Okoro sat back in his chair, sweat glistening on his face. His empire was collapsing, his family was in chaos, and now a shadow loomed over them all, a shadow with money, power, and a secret. The night after Naomi thanked her father for supposedly paying the hospital bills, Clara and her mother sat in the grand living room of Chief Okoro's mansion, plotting like two cats circling prey. "This doesn't add up," Clara hissed, her manicured fingers drumming on the glass table. "Daddy swore he didn't pay the bills, but Naomi has a receipt with his name. Someone powerful is pulling strings." Her mother's eyes were sharp as daggers. "Then we'll drag the truth out. I know just who to call." That night, they contacted Naomi's old admirer, Richard, the so-called FBI friend Clara had always despised. With his knack for hacking and tracing records, Richard dug into the hospital's payment system. Hours later, his voice came through the speakerphone, smug and triumphant. The money came from a hidden account, under the alias Billionaire A. It's tied to a conglomerate registered here in Lagos. The owner has connections across shipping, real estate, and tech. But the face of the company is a certain Briggs A, listed as the CEO. Clara smirked. "Briggs A. Then I'll smoke him out myself." Her plan was reckless, but she was desperate. The next afternoon, Clara dressed herself in a flowing maternity gown, her stomach stuffed with padding to mimic pregnancy. She stormed into the skyscraper headquarters of the company, clutching her phone dramatically. Her voice shook with fake tears as she addressed the receptionist. "Please, I've been calling him for weeks. He knows me. He promised to take care of me and this child, but now he refuses to pick my calls. Is this how your CEO treats women he has ruined?" The receptionist froze, pity flashing in her eyes. She knew she couldn't grant Clara access to the CEO's office without an appointment, but as a woman, she sympathized. Leaning closer, she whispered, "I can't let you in, but his car is always parked in the reserved slot in the basement. Wait there, maybe you'll catch him." Clara's eyes glimmered with victory. "Thank you," she whispered, before hurrying away. Hours later, at the basement parking lot, Clara crouched in the shadows, her phone camera poised. At exactly 6 in the evening, the sound of polished shoes echoed. Her heart stopped. Out walked Adrian, tall and composed, his arm brushing against Daniel, his ever-loyal assistant. Adrian's voice was calm, commanding, as though the whole building answered to him. Clara's jaw nearly hit the floor. She filmed every second, her fingers trembling. Adrian, Naomi's so-called broke husband, the bastard child her mother always mocked, was the true force behind the empire. Click. Click. She snapped photos like a predator. By the time Adrian and Daniel drove off, Clara was shaking with excitement. She had the proof. She ran home, burst into the mansion, and threw her phone on the table before her mother. "Mama! Look! Adrian! Naomi's Adrian, he's the billionaire." Her mother gasped, clutching her chest as if her heart had skipped a beat. "What?" The two women stared at the footage, realization dawning that they had been mocking and despising the very man who could destroy them all. Meanwhile, in Naomi's small flat, life was a different picture. She sat with Adrian on the couch, her head leaning against his shoulder. "Adrian," she whispered, "the distance between my office and this house, it's exhausting. Sometimes I wish we lived closer." Adrian smiled faintly, stroking her hair. "Maybe we can move. I have a friend with a mansion not too far from your office. We could stay there for a while." Naomi turned to him with wide eyes. A mansion? Your friend must be really generous. Adrian chuckled softly. He owes me a favor. That night, the weather turned cool, the kind of night that called for warmth. Wrapped in a single blanket, Naomi and Adrian lay close, their breaths mingling. For the first time, Adrian felt the urge to tell her everything, to confess his identity, to let her see the truth he had hidden for so long. Naomi, his voice cracked, low and earnest. There's something you need to know about me. I'm not who you think I am. But before he could finish, Naomi placed a tender kiss on his lips, silencing him. Her soft laugh followed. Shoo, not tonight, she whispered against his mouth. Let's just enjoy this moment. No secrets. No worries. Just us. Adrian's heart swelled with a mix of love and frustration. He held her tighter, knowing the truth would eventually shatter her innocence. Across the city, however, Clara and her mother sat with smug smiles. They had discovered the truth Naomi was too blind to see. And they planned to use it to destroy her. The mansion Naomi and Adrian had moved into glowed like a palace at night, white walls, sweeping chandeliers, and manicured gardens that made Naomi feel as though she had stepped into a fairy tale. She often teased Adrian, your friend must be richer than even Chief Okoro himself. Adrian would only smile, hiding the truth that he was the friend, the mansion, and much more. But while Naomi's heart softened, in another corner of the city, Clara and her mother sharpened their knives. They had seen the videos. They had pieced the puzzle together. Adrian wasn't just some struggling husband, he was Billionaire A, the hidden force behind her father's ruined empire. And they would use this knowledge to bring him down. Clara leaned toward her mother, her lips curling in a cruel smile. Naomi is blind. She thinks Adrian is a saint. Let's open her eyes. Let's show her the kind of man she married. Her mother nodded approvingly. We'll make Naomi see him as a liar and a cheat. Once her heart is broken, she'll walk away. Then, my darling Clara, we can deal with Adrian on our terms. The plan was hatched. Watch out for part 2 and type part 2 to show your interest in the next turn of event. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share as this channel needs your support to grow.